Hey, Battle Bill, here with another video, getting some more Ultra League Go Battle League battles. And in today's video, we have a feature of a newly buffed mon in the form of Drifblim with Mystical Fire. Now, this was a new move that was added to Drifblim's move pool, and it just recently got introduced into the game when Delphox received it alongside of its Community Day move, Blast Burn, during Community Day. Now, the question becomes, is this an upgrade from Icy Wind? Is this a side grade? Well, oh boy, do I have the collection of battles for you today. You can see my elos at 2448, and for the past few videos, I've been slowly getting closer and closer to reaching that veteran rank, and this team right here was able to push me over the edge with Regirock lead, Drifblim in the back with Mystical Fire, and Virizion also. Nice little shiny Virizion, but terrible IVs. Now, in terms to answer the first question that I asked, is this an upgrade to Icy Wind or a side grade? The answer is side grade. It gives it a little bit more play versus the steel types, gives it some more play against things that would take super effective versus of fire, but there are going to be times where you wish you had Icy Wind also, because that also has its own type coverages, but both of those moves essentially are clones of each other, just, doing the same thing, just to different types. And you need to make sure you have Shadow Ball without, if you try to run double debuff with Drifblim, you don't end up covering the things that ghosts are usually good against, like opposing ghosts and psychic types, specifically Cresselia in the open Ultra League meta. So I'd highly recommend either this moveset, or if you want to stick with Drifblim, run Icy Wind over Mystical Fire. But this team comp right here, I think, is legit. I came up with it all by myself. Very proud of myself. Surely you won't find this in the video somewhere else, but I promise, even if you do, I came up with it. But regardless, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, support the elo climbing teams and reaching the veteran rank. Unfortunately, this is like the last day of Ultra League, so I apologize for getting this team to you so late. But regardless, let's jump into the battles. As you'll see here, I'm throwing a Mystical Fire at this Walrein. It also helps in this matchup where instead of you having to throw Shadow Ball, you can throw Mystical Fire, get the debuff, and do neutral damage, even though it's non-stab, whereas Icy Wind would have been double resisted because of Walrein's ice and water typing. Getting to this next match, we have Regirock up against a Giratina altered lead with Dragon Breath. Our goal and objective in this matchup is just to spam out as many stone edges as possible and see what kind of energy they're able to build up to. Our opponent waited so long and farmed so much energy specifically because they wanted to catch this stone edge on their Registeel, which was a really good catch, and that energy could come back to bite us in the end game, but we're able to at least align the Registeel with one of its harder counters in the form of Virizion. We're not going to take super effective or even neutral damage from the Zap Cannon they just threw. Unfortunately, they still were able to get the debuff, so we're just going to overfarm a bunch in hopes to land this Sacred Sword, take it out, and then leave the matchup with a bunch of energy. So we throw it. That does not take out. We get a double kick through. The Registeel does go down. I make a slight mistake here, forgetting how much energy the Giratina Altered has on it that's about to come back in. I keep on throwing one fast move so that I'm throwing a proper charge move or fast move timing for my charge moves to maximize my energy. But instead, and it's nice I'm getting all these free fast moves through, but this Giratina is now thrown 3 straight Dragon Claws, and I'm forced to shield because I completely forgot. And I was like, all right, 1, it's not going to get to another one. 2, there's no way it gets to a third one, and it got to all 3. Now we're throwing a Leaf Blade here, and I forgot we're debuffed. So the first one gets a shield. This second one I was fully expecting to take out does not take out, so I pivot, and now my Regirock is locked in with the Swampert. But this ends up being a very good pivot on my point because Virizion is still alive with a Leaf Blade stored. So my goal here is to essentially get the shield from the Swampert with my Drifblim, and then potentially land the Leaf Blade. Hopefully, as long as they don't make a proper swap, which is something I have to be cautious of also, because that Giratina Altered is still alive in the back. Now, we're getting all the way to the Shadow Ball here. We're not expecting the shields, but they end up doing so. If we had Icy Wind, Icy Wind would be better in this matchup, just based on the fact that I would potentially be able to get the shield or threaten the shield faster, whereas Mystical Fire does not. But regardless, they shielded the Shadow Ball. We pivot into the Virizion. We land the Leaf Blade, and bang, the Swampert's gone. The Giratina comes back in. Dragon Breath us down, but our Drifblim has plenty of health and is able to hex down the Giratina to pull out the win. Getting to this next matchup, we have a Regirock on a Walrein lead, which is a good lead for us. We overfarm a bunch of energy, fully expecting them to swap. They do into Cresselia, and we have a fantastic match for Cresselia, a matchup which is going to be our Drifblim, but we have to watch out. A lot of Cresselias these days are running Future Sight because of all the Charizards that have run rampant since the wing attack got buffed last season. So Unfortunately, even though we're able to land the Shadow Ball, we get outpaced to the next charge move, and our opponent forces a shield. So we're over farming a bunch. I make a slight mistake here in hopes that this Mystical Fire will do enough damage to take out the Cresselia. It does not, and at this point I'm so committed. I'm like, I gotta hex down. Thankfully, they don't get to another charge move, but they make a solid combo play and swap into their Wall Rain, throw an Icicle Spear. I'm forced to use my shield because I do not want to give up all that energy I farmed up. I throw that Mystical Fire in hopes that I get a shield from them. I do not, but also I wanted to put them in Stone Edge range because Stone Edge was not going to take out the Wall Rain from full health, because obviously it did not take out from full health even after the Mystical Fire, which was slightly unfortunate because I thought I had them there. I might have been better off throwing the Focus Blast, and then we CMP'd on an Earthquake, when now at this point I would have just preferred to lock on farm down. So not in the best circumstances, just based on charge moves being thrown and my energy management. They come in with a Virizion, and thankfully we have Focus Blast, so we land a huge neutral move onto this Virizion. But now they have a 2 shield to no shield advantage on us. We have to come in with our Drifblim, try to get out this Mystical Fire to either land for super effective or threaten a shield. Boom. It also gets a debuff from us, but our opponent then swaps, pivots back into their Cresselia with 1 HP, takes out our Drifblim, but we're able to at least get 1 double kick's worth of farm, and the Virizion is super low on health, thankfully, because of the Focus Blast that landed from Regirock earlier. So all we need to do is build up the 2 Sacred Swords, and this match is over. Regardless of the fact that they have a shield, we are ahead of them on energy. So we're going to throw these back to back, and that is going to be GG's for us. But yes, overall, I highly recommend this team. Ultra League is still going to be around? No. Is it? I forget how the schedule works. Either it's going to be around for another week, or Master League is coming alongside the Single Type Cup. Regardless of what's happening, I think Ultra League's here for another week. So if you don't like Single Type Cup, highly recommend using this team. So maybe, you know what, Ultra League's not gone, and this video wasn't as late as I thought it was. Now, getting to this next matchup, we have Regirock on a Jellicent lead. We bluff that we have Zap Cannon, so I overfarmed a bunch. You're probably wondering why I farmed so much energy, was to get that shield that I was thankfully able to get. Now, because of the way this team is set up, we don't really have a great hard answer for Jellicent, so we're just going to stay in this matchup with Regirock, even though we're going to be taking super effective from all the water damage. I don't want to go in the Drifblim as like my soft answer, because they'll be ahead on energy. They'll throw super effective Ghost at our Ghost, and I don't want to go into Virizion because that would essentially be my hard answer, because we at least have a Leaf Blade, and that is the main reason why, if you're wondering why I'm running Sacred Sword Leaf Blade and not Stone Edge, because we need to have legitimate damage that we can deal to Jellicent and even other water types because of our Regirock lead. So we lose the 1 shield scenario there, and we're not in a great spot because that Jellicent was able to hex farm us all the way down. In hopes that they'll bait me, I decide to hold this shield. They don't end up baiting me because they end up not even getting to another move. But we ended up eating an entire Shadow Ball, which might be costly in case our Drifblim is going to be good for us in the end game. And because we have Mystical Fire, this is the main reason why we want to have it. It's good there, but unfortunately, their last mon ends up being a Gliscor, and we are just out of hope. 1, because the Drifblim is super low on health. 2, it's not running Icy Wind. We would have preferred to have Icy Wind here, which is why they brought in the Registeel. They didn't expect us to be running Mystical Fire. And then 2, Virizion doesn't have a great matchup against Gliscor, just based on the pure fact that, you know, we have to spam off these Leaf Blades, and they're able to throw double super effective wing attacks as their fast move. As much as we're able to, you know, resist all their charge moves, they spam it, and then by the time they essentially Virizion is out of health by the time they're throwing their charge moves, because the wing attacks are adding up. That is what I'm trying to say. Getting to this next matchup, shout out to our opponent for the really spice lead and the really spice swap. They have a Salazzle against our Regirock, and then they swap in the Haxorus, which we match with our Drifblim. Here, I took a second to figure out which would have been my better option to go into. If I would have had Icy Wind, honestly, Drifblim would have been most ideal, but Drifblim still ends up working because we land that Shadow Ball. I guess they didn't want to commit. They were worried about Icy Wind. They figured they were losing this matchup no matter what. We're going to get off this Mystical Fire here. This will do enough damage to take out the Haxorus's remaining health, which it does, and then we're expecting the Salazzle to come back in. We're hoping we can get off this Shadow Ball before they incinerate farm us all the way down, which we are able to do. This is huge. We end up doing a chunk of their health. Salazzle, pretty glassy mon, but I'm not gonna lie, Ultra League not as bad. I think it's in Great League where its defense really comes back to bite it, but it ate that neutral Shadow Ball pretty well. The problem becomes now that the Salazzle has no play against our Regirock, so they come with the Golisopod, and we come in with our Virizion to match them, and we're in a positive situation because in the Open Ultra League meta, players are not going to be running Aerial Ace on their Golysopods. They're mainly going to be running X-Scissor and Liquidation, which we take neutral from X-Scissor, but X-Scissor is a bad move, and Liquidation we resist. Aerial Ace could have been a potential issue here because it would have been double super effective. But again, you really want to run the standard moveset for Golysopod if you're going to run it in the Open Ultra League meta. There was, I think, a previous meta. Was it the Ultra Summer Cup that we had just recently where you could have gotten away with Aerial Ace and that would have been potentially successful. Our opponent makes a really good swap here, ends up catching a Leaf Blade against us. They're going to throw another charge move. I have to let this come through because I'm fully expecting to be a Poison Fang and not a Dragon Pulse. And at this point, I'm debating between either lock on farming down or throwing my Stone Edges because Regirock does spam those pretty quick with lock on as its fast move, and Stone Edge being one of the cheaper energy charge moves to pair with lock on fast move. Our opponent decides not to shield their Salazzle at all, fully expecting to get lock on farm down, but I guess they forgot their Golisopod was also at an insane measure of health left, a very little amount, and they were able to get lock on farm down regardless. Getting to this next matchup, we have a positive lead with Regirock. Regirock does so well against the Ultra League meta as it's currently formed, wins a bunch of leads, and the back line covers Regirock really well when we do lose lead, which is why this team saw a lot of success. Our opponent swaps into a Cresselia, and look at that, we have our Drifblim to answer it. So we're going to shield the first one, potentially expecting a Future Sight, ends up being a Moonblast. We don't mind still using our shield there because we got a shield from them, so essentially we're matching. We're in an even shielding scenario. Now, I don't want to make the same mistake that I made in an earlier match where I throw Mystical Fire and don't take out the crest, so what I'm going to do is overfarm a bunch of energy, and then I'm still going to throw a Shadow Ball because I still don't think Mystical Fire was going to take out at that health range. So we're going to take out the Cresselia here. We're going to wait for their lead to come back in, which is a Galvantula. Another positive scenario to have Mystical Fire instead of Icy Wind. Completely caught the Galvantula lacking because they were not expecting the super effective move to hit them, and it got the debuff. We're going to let them throw their charge move. They were forced to throw their energy just based on the pure fact that they're worried about another Mystical Fire coming out. We come in comfortably with our Regirock. They end up shielding our last move here. We overfarm, expecting them to swap. They end up not swapping. We know their energy is not high enough for them to throw another charge move back to back. They didn't build up enough Volt Switches to get the 2 discharges, so we let them get another Volt Switch through so that we can then take out their Galvantula, and this is why they were not shielding or they were not swapping out, because their Walrein is also going to be weak to our Regirock. So they were ABA weak to Regirock. Their only real answer was a Cresselia, which got wasted on our Drifblim. We then come in with our Virizion to match their Walrein. We get off a Leaf Blade, and this game is essentially over. We are slightly concerned they're able to build up to back-to-back Icicle Spears, but because we get the Leaf Blade so fast, they're not. We're going to get off the Stone Edge. They're going to throw, they are forced to throw a fast move there. Our Stone Edge is going to take out the Walrein's remaining health, and that is going to be GG's for that match there. Getting into the next one, we have a Regirock lead up against a Pelipper, a positive lead, even though we could take some super effective water damage. They then react to our lead with a Cobalion. I meant to say respond, but I guess both of those words work regardless. And we match the Cobalion with our Virizion. We're sitting in a great spot. One Sword of Justice up against another. We have the better Sword of Justice typing wise because of their steel typing. We can eat Sacred Swords. They cannot eat Sacred Swords. Ours are super effective against them. So we're able to overfarm a little bit. CMP tie on them. This here we're able to win CMP just based on the pure fact that, you know, RIVs on Virizion aren't that hot. Then again, I don't really know how the Swords of Justice compare attack stat wise, so I don't know if like Virizion typically just wins CMP there no matter what. Regardless, they come with the Pelipper. We land a Leaf Blade, which is going to be huge for us because the Stone Edge, as much as it's super effective against this Pelipper, is not going to one-shot the Pelipper. But now that we have it in this health range, it's in perfect remaining health, one-shottable range. So we're going to go for the Stone Edge here. We were fully expecting them to swap, so we're waiting for them to throw a Wing Attack, make it clear visually, and try to throw our one-turn move in the middle of that Wing Attack so they cannot swap, because you cannot throw a fast move and swap at the same time. So again, running into the same issue, still just trying to time things right. They're at double Weather Balls, expecting them to still swap. We don't want them to catch something. We're just, you know, a little over anxious about it. We know we have a little bit of energy to play with in case they decide to swap, just based on the pure fact that they had thrown back to back that way. And again, we were expecting the swap, so we built the Stone Edge and we swapped, and they decided to swap out, not expecting us to be running Mystical Fire over Icy Wind. So they match their Steel type with a Pokemon with a super effective fire move. They must be running Psychic Fangs and Earthquake. Makes sense because their Steelix is in a closing endgame scenario. You typically want to be using a big hard-hitting move of Earthquake in that type of circumstance, but our opponent's making one grave mistake. They're not throwing their Psychic Fangs immediately, so they're not getting the maximum damage dealt from their Steelix onto our Drifblim here, just based on the pure fact that, you know, they're not debuffing our defense right away. Now here, I'm trying to force them to throw a move. I could have swapped them. I'd be wondering why I'm not swapping. That's because I don't want to potentially swap into them throwing the move, because I cannot remember exactly where their Pelipper's health was at. But I almost made a huge mistake, because they could have wing attacked us down, and then they would have won CMP against my Regirock with their Pelipper. So that could have potentially cost me there. Thankfully did not. I should have just swapped earlier, thrown Stone Edge right away to win that match. They also must have thrown because maybe they didn't know I had Shadow Ball. I don't remember if I revealed it in that match. But regardless, we're in another positive circumstance here. Our opponent locked in their Swampert against our Virizion, so we're over farming as close to 100 energy as we possibly can, because one Leaf Blade will absolutely delete that Swampert, and then we're expecting them to come in with whatever their lead was. I got sidetracked, explained the last match. Oh, was it no, it was not a Venusaur, because they wouldn't have swapped out in a Venusaur matchup. But regardless, I make a mistake here. I throw a double resisted move. Ignore that. I realized my issue there. Wasn't running into a bunch of Venusaurs, so it wasn't thinking right away, because typically if you're going to throw Sacred Sword and Leaf Blade and they're both either, you know, neutral or super effective or both resisted singularly, then Leaf Blade's a better move, because they're the same energy. Leaf Blade just does more damage than Sacred Sword does, because both are also stab on Virizion. Regardless, we have Drifblim in a fantastic scenario here. They then come back in with their Walrein, and we have things lined up exactly how we want them. We're in the 2-shield scenario, but we are going to outspam them as fast as we possibly can, because of the fact that Lock-On generates energy on Stone Edge so fast. They have to get all the way to Earthquakes. We make a huge call on their first move, expecting them to go nuke because we have 2 shields, and they might have thought that we were expecting a bait and weren't going to shield. And shielding that Earthquake ends up being crucial for us. So now we're throwing these Stone Edges back to back to back to back as fast as Regirock possibly can. We're expecting them to go Earthquake again, especially because of the fact, oh wait, no, we're not. I'm mixing this up with another match. My apologies. But they wombo comboed, and I think the reason why I was like, you know what, I'm okay whether or not they throw the big move is because Drifblim can come in and win this end game scenario. That is why I let that go through, regardless of if I expected it to be a bait or the big move. I was okay with letting Regirock go down, which is why I did when, you know, the Venusaur came in and threw the Frenzy Play. Now we're getting extra greedy. We farmed up a bunch. We are going to throw a Mystical Fire at this Venusaur. It's going to take out its remaining health. We still have the shield, so the Walrein would have to Powder Snow farm us down, but because we have 2 Mystical Fires, we're going to throw this for some strong neutral damage against the Walrein, almost take them out, Hex, win that match, and that is the final match of this collection of battles. So again, I gained like a solid 100-ish points with this team, maybe even more. I saved this so you could see, like, you know, the end screen, but apparently I didn't cut this well, because I should have clicked these rewards by now. My apologies. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on the team. Let me know your thoughts on the battles. If you want to try out the Drifblim, I highly recommend this specific team comp with it. Popped off, hit Veteran a little bit earlier in the season than I usually do. My new media player likes to reshuffle back to the original image from the beginning of the video, which I hate. I wish it would just stay on the Veteran Elo, but if you rewind it, you can go and see it for yourself. Regardless, thank you so much for watching. I hope I got this video to you in time. There is still plenty of time left in Ultra League, at least for the next week, so I hope you're able to find success with the team comp. But on that note, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace.